Does anybody want to feedback any of their thoughts, or any stories they've got about vision and perception in dementia care? That'd be really helpful. Should we go around the groups, or do we just keep it open? Let's keep it open, because they're only a small group, aren't we? We don't need to put people on the spot. Say, Jane Smart, what did your group say?
See, he does it every time. He does it. I tried to merge in the background and it says my name. I think it was. I think one of the things we were talking about, Terry was in my group as well, and we were in a little group. But I think we talked about the dementia bus. I don't know if people have, and how it's quite an experience, and staff get a lot from that, because they actually are part. You remember things when you've actually felt it, and those feelings, and those actually try. Not, it's not always the same, but having those experiences. And I do know that we were really lucky in Swansea a couple of years ago, and we got quite a number of sessions and staff went through, and staff will still talk about it. There's little things that they still remember, because they still got that feeling, and they go back, and we were saying, some staff had that thing around, we need to change this and we need to change this. Oh my God, we've been doing that so long, wrong for so long, and those sort of things. But it did make a difference to some people.
Other people had. Does everybody know what the dementia bus is? Does anybody not know? No, Michelle doesn't know. Could you just explain what it is, Jane?
Oh God, now you put me in the spot again. Now, yeah. Well, it's very sensual. So what they do is they put things in your shoes, and then you wear special glasses and headphones, so it affects your eyesight and you're actually being able to hear things. And it is quite interesting how when I did it, the guy doesn't explain anything at all to you to begin with. He actually winds you up a little bit, because he's quite rude, and so depending on your personality, I got very annoyed, so I. And then you go in there, and he will ask you to do things which you haven't caught what he said at all, and then you have to sort of make it up as you go along. And depending on, and he was interested at the end, because they do debrief you at the end and go through stuff, but depending sometimes on your personality, like I just carried on and made it up as I went along, but he kept on telling me off, and I never got anything right. And then he says some people, you'll notice, will just sit and stay sitting because it's safer, and they don't do anything at all then. So it was very interesting, and then they debrief you afterwards, and you go through stuff. It's very good. It is very good.
Yeah, Lindsay, you've had some experience. This idea of experiential learning, that is a really important thing. Do you want to say anything about that, Lindsay?
Yeah, there's only two of us in our group. Sorry, my camera's not on because I've got internet issues today.
That's okay.
But yeah, we were saying the same thing, that when you feel something during training or something really resonates with you, it stays with you. So we were talking about a recent programme that had been on BBC, Dementia and Me. Well, it was so heartbreaking that it sort of stays with you. So those emotions stay with you.
Yeah. What can you tell us a bit about Dementia and Me? I've not seen that.
I think it's like Dementia and Me. It follows 4 families. It's in 2 parts. So one gentleman is quite young. He's about 40. He's lived with dementia for about 10 years, and it's hereditary. And it follows in his daughter going for a test to find out if she's got the gene as well. And it follows him. Then he has to do a driving test every year to see if he's still able to drive, and how it affected him emotionally about the thought of not being able to drive has taken that last bit of independence away from him, because he was, quite young. There's a gentleman then who was a little bit older, and he was starting to get aggressive to his wife, and his wife was really, really having a difficult time with it, and she was, it was absolutely heartbreaking to see her emotion and how she was struggling. It's really, if you can watch it. But I would suggest.
I'll look it up.
I would suggest having tissues with you, because it is quite heartbreaking to watch it. But it really hit home.
I think I very much share that idea that learning has to affect your emotions as well as your intellect. That's when you learn the best, isn't it? It is really important.
Yeah.
Any other points about the sort of perceptions? Is there any talk about falls or clutter or help making the dementia care home environment more accessible? Have any of you had any experience, or whether you use colour contrast and it has made a difference? Has anybody got any examples?
When I first got to this current care home that I'm in, all the corridors were magnolia painted, which wasn't really very good. So we have a very long corridor, so we broke up the corridor into sections and colour-coded them a different section so that people could actually see how far they had to go. It wasn't just merging all into one another. And we went from white plates to coloured plates at meal times so that people could see the food rather than it just being white on white, which wasn't really very good. And put sort of feature walls in each of the bedrooms, painted them a really nice bright colour, so they've got a bright colour as well as magnolia, which seems to be the care home colour, just to help them along, really.
And you've noticed the difference with that? You
Yes.
see some positive impact?
Yeah, certainly at meal times with the coloured plates, those that are able to eat by themselves independently, we've seen them eating more off the plates than if it was on a white plate. So it's good.
Well, I mean, because Cheryl, you talked about a plate, didn't you? You were saying that person, is it worth, have you thought of trying, or do you think that person's too...
Yeah, we do use coloured plates. Yeah.
Just in case you've not seen Nick, Terry has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Terry. My top car, my perception, my attention isn't very good.
I think I've just said enough already. I'm just following on from what Lindsay said, that Dementia and Us programme, it had somebody with who had visual problems because of her dementia. And one of the things she'd done was all her door frames and were defined with quite a bright yellow colour, so that, you know, that was different from the wall and the door itself. And I think one of the things, without wanting to sort of give any competition, sorry, but Stirling University have done an awful lot around the environment as well. Over the years, and a lot of the things that I've pulled from my training have come from that. You know, sort of the coloured toilet seats, not necessarily red, because I think red can also indicate danger. So I think it's just as long as it's a contrast. But they've also done quite a lot around hospital environments as well, to try and make it, you know, obviously you've got to have hospitals that are prepared to sort of to go along with these sorts of things, but you know, and trying to get rid of mirrors in lifts and places like that. And I was away a couple of weeks ago, and the lift had mirrors everywhere, which is quite disconcerting anyway. But you can't imagine if you're a person with dementia that, you know, you might obviously not necessarily recognise yourself as that. But and I did have a lady who when I was working frontline, and the optician came out to do an eye test with her, but she actually suffered from something called Charles Bonnet syndrome. And so she had very visual hallucinations, and her hallucinations actually sort of projected themselves as children. So I would go out to do a visit, and she'd say to me, quick, the children, they're in here. I think they're behind the door. And obviously the things she had hanging on the door when she had the door closed, when she was in the room, to her was, you know, that and her hallucinations were making it into children. And actually I had a really great explanation from the optician himself around these sorts of issues. And I think, you know, we can't dismiss them for that person because they're very real. I mean, I used to just say to her, oh, gosh, you're so lucky. They only visit you when there's no one else around, because obviously they do visit her, you know, in her mind they're there. But I said, oh, and they never stay around when I'm here, when I come, you know. So it's about validating that they are seeing things, but and you know, and it can last quite a while, can't it, Charles? You know, 12 or 18 months, I believe. And I just think, you know, it's about understanding that as well. So I've always tried to get that into my training sessions as well, to help people, you know, staff to understand why people might have hallucinations.
Okay, that's fantastic. I'm just conscious that I'm amazed how quickly an hour goes, isn't it? We've got 4 minutes left. Thank you, Terry. We've got 4 minutes left, and if you're okay, people, to do the little evaluation, that would be really helpful to us. There is another comment in the chat. Where I previously worked, it's from Tracy. We use dishes for dementia residents and Parkinson's that you filled with hot water to keep their food hot. Oh, that's as we noticed that they took so long to eat independently. They gave I've never heard of that. That's a thoughtful thing, isn't it? Something to keep your food. Yeah. So
Nick, I wonder if I could just respond to Terry.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry. Just to say, I know the people at Stirling very well, and they do fantastic work. And in the New Owen Institute, we're hopefully going to be working with them. And I think what we've got here is two different ends of the spectrum. So, for example, years ago, when I started my research, I'm a basic scientist really, and so I would find this evidence and just publish it, and then I'd hope that other people would pick it up and use that evidence to look at something else. And what's been a real challenge for me, I put my hand up, is to say, okay, I can't just sit on this evidence now, I need to be doing something with it. And that's what Stirling have been superb at doing. They have taken evidence, they found their own evidence as well, and they've changed it, they've moved it into real life, and they've been brilliant at that. And I think it's something we can all, certainly my colleagues and I, can really learn from that. They're a fantastic organisation. Yeah, thanks, Terry.
I've just put it in the link there in the chat box. If people don't know about the Stirling website, there's all sorts of resources. A lot of them are free on there as well, aren't there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all ever so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. If you're happy doing the little evaluation thing, we'd really appreciate that. Thank you ever so much for your time and your wisdom and insights. That's fantastic. Thank you all.